Hello everyone. Now I recently featured the Kansas and the Minnesota. So obviously it would make sense that I would feature the counterpart, the Iowa. A tier 9 battleship that I still think holds up to the test of time. The Minnesota has multiple issues to the ship itself, and it really brings me the question, why should I play that ship instead of playing the Iowa? Now I have slotted the reload mod. I've switched out on the Minnesota from dispersion to reload just to get the reload to something of a manageable 35-second reload, but that doesn't mean that the ship is still fun to play. It still has all those issues with speed and such. Something as simple as what I'm doing right now, which is pushing into the center of the map to try to get some crossfires and of course to try to punish any enemy ships that are playing too aggressive into the center. Oops, I had HE loaded, I didn't even notice. Something as simple as getting into position in the center of the map. It takes you so long in the Minnesota that by 2 minutes in the game there's no way I'd be where I'm right now. The speed just isn't enough. You can't do things like this. You can't reposition into the center. You can't take an aggressive position in the center. Not just because you can't really make it there in time, but also the Minnesota has the issue that if you push in, like I do in the Iowa here, you can't disengage anymore. You're stuck. You're forced to take the fight, and you're probably going to be burned down, or if a DD gets through, he's probably going to be able to just torp you on it. Basically, you rely on your team to defend you. You can't defend yourself. In the Iowa, on the other hand, there are no issues for me to sail into the center position, and even if the enemy team tries to rush me, I'm so fast I can easily disengage. This flexibility, this freedom of choice, is something that I really enjoy in the Iowa. You get out of the ship what you put in. My Donskoi rushed into sea, I don't know why. I see that a fair bit these days, and that's just cruisers running straight into the caps. Why? I don't know, especially radar cruisers that could just turn the game around by radaring the DDs, but it happens a lot. I overmatched the Ibuki straight for the nose, Citadel him, give a bit too much broadside though, and I think that was the Sovietsky Soyuz sailing in behind the island who chunked me fairly hard over all those islands. Iowa is a large ship though. The concealment is good, 12.7, but of course when you shoot and you're giving broadside like that, there's a lot of real estate to fire at. However, I was willing to take the damage just because I really like this central position, and I really want to provide some support for my St. Louis, who's apparently deciding to rush into the center as well. No idea why. But in DC sails full broadside, I aim in on him, and of course I take a pot shot. That's what you want to do. Take pot shots at any cruiser sailing past, and he gets double Citadel chunked quite hard. Donskoi looks like he's pushing in, I'm ready to shoot him as well. Team so far, we do have a ship advantage, but this St. Louis charging in like this is obviously going to die. My Kitakaze actually guns down my teammate, and this game is starting to look like the average World of Warships game, meaning we have a lot of work to do. With the spotter plane, I catch the Brindisi over the island, and once again, Iowa has 1.9 Sigma, I think, slightly better than Minnesota's 1.8, and more importantly, it has that faster reload, and I run the dispersion mod on the Iowa because, well, I don't feel as hamstrung by a 40-second reload as I do by, I don't feel as hamstrung by a 30-second reload as I do by a 40-second reload. So I catch him with another set of Citadels, and I do delete him, evening the score somewhat, keeping us in a ship advantage. Pommern pushing up the flank. We do actually have a Pommern of our own, and we have a Friedrich Grosse as well. But for some reason, while the enemy battleships are playing quite aggressive, my battleships are playing extremely passive. Pommern gets Citadeled. I mentioned briefly that Pommern turtleback is probably one of the worst German turtlebacks in the game. It's very shallow, and especially at ranges like this, you can just punch straight through it and Citadel the ship. And if the Pommern is of course turning left or right, basically lifting or lowering the skirt, changing the angle of the turtleback, you can also get Citadels quite easily. TLDR, I've said it, as I said in my Pommern review, Pommern can absolutely be Citadel at range. It's not something rare or uncommon by any means. There's a Sovietsky Soyuz, 19 kilometers away. Note that at 19 kilometers, or 19.1, while the Iowa has about 450 millimeters of pen, the Minnesota will dip below 400 millimeters. And when you consider that Sovietsky Soyuz, underneath the turrets, he has more than 400 millimeters of plating, something like 4.6, 4.20, depending on the plate. And in the center of the ship, he got 375. Especially with the angle of the shells, that tends to lead to an effective armor of more than 400. So citadeling him like this is something like that the Minnesota could never do. Because the Minnesota has those Colorado guns, the Minnesota does not have the penetration to do this, whereas the Iowa, with 450mm of pen at 19 kilometers, can in fact quite consistently citadel him. Even when he angles out a bit, slopes his armor even a bit more like he's doing right now, Iowa's fast reload and, more importantly, Iowa's good penetration allows me to citadel him yet again. So at this point we have racked up 151,000 damage just playing this somewhat central position in the Iowa, and we've scored 8 citadels while doing so. The problem, however, is that the rest of my battleships, well, generally, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but we have a Pommer and an FDG that are basically ramming into each other, and a Shandbart that's just running away. Not sure what's going on there. My Katakaze seems to be covering up for his earlier team kill and getting something done, and I'm of course focus firing the Jutland while trying to get my team to focus fire him as well. That tends to be really rare though. People for some reason don't shoot DDs nearly as much as they should. Udalo is deciding to charge the Jutland, which is very questionable. I kind of want to shoot the Drake, but the Jutland gets spotted again on the minimap, so I switch my guns to him. Hoping to see he'll go down, but he does not. The Udalo goes down, so I of course take the shot at the Jutland. We do need these kills. This game is running out of control very, very quickly, and I do pick up the Jutland as well. So I have 2 kills. I mean, you'd think 7.5 minutes into the game, 2 kills, 150k damage. This game would be in the bag, but the problem is my flanks, well, my brawling battleships have played extremely passive, letting the enemy push through, and the rest of my team has basically just suicided. So we are losing cap control everywhere. I'm trying to help this flank right now, this crossfire I have. I'm giving a fair bit of broadside to potential Pommern in the center, potential Pommern in A. But at this point I have the health pool to kind of take the risk of being chunked. Because I need the Sovietsky Soyuz, I need him to die so that these battleships start doing something. Start becoming more active on the map. Pommern pushes through B, as expected. The other Pommern is pushing into A, as expected. I'm providing a lot of broadside to a lot of targets here, but I can't really afford to angle perfectly either, because, well, they're pushing and my team isn't doing a whole lot. No one else appears to be doing a whole lot of killing. Right now I'm giving full broadside to the Pommern in A, which is absolutely a risk. If the game was more even, if we had a bigger advantage, I wouldn't be willing to take this risk, but with the situation being what it is, I even damage con the broken turret just to get more damage in, because I need to get kills, because no one else seems to be getting them. Sovietsky Soyuz is somehow still alive. I think they might be shooting AP on him or something. The Pommern finally takes him down with his secondaries, and I switch to the Drake in the center. Ideally, this position I'm in right now is pretty good. I'm angled away from the Pommern in B. And more importantly, I'm creating a crossfire on A with my 2 battleships. They've taken their sweet time, but they're finally pushing that flank. So as long as I maintain roughly the area I am in right now, I should be able to get a good crossfire. I do want to punish this Vlad, this Pommern, as much as possible, because he's creating a crossfire on my Shandbart and Siegfried down in our spawn. With the Musashi on the flank and the Pommern in the center, they get a pretty nasty crossfire going, so I try to chunk the Pommern as hard as possible, basically force him to abandon his push, force him to abandon his YOLO. My Pommern, my FDG, they should be able to punish these guys in the center, but it looks like they're struggling a fair bit. In fact, my Pommern has decided to charge into them, which, considering he played so safe when he had full HP, and now when he's almost dead, this is his time to charge. Looks like he also, did he hit a torpedo? I'm not sure, but TLDR, not a good choice. He should just maintain his firing angles and just utilize the crossfire we have going. Instead, it looks like he's charging in, and yeah, he's gonna go down. Ideally, the FDG will still provide a crossfire with me, except looking at the minimap, the FDG is sailing in behind the island, which means he's putting an island between himself and the enemy, which means that crossfire that I've been trying to maintain by staying here, well, my teammates just abandoned it. One of them suicided, the other sailed behind the island. So now obviously both of these ships are gonna turn their crosshairs on me, because the FDG is no longer actually a threat. So I have to start disengaging. I have to start kiting away a bit, and I have to start angling more. The Drake starts picking a fight with me. I do absolutely want to shoot him, because I'm getting pretty close to getting my Confederate, and with Halsey that means faster reload. We have broken 200,000 damage with what, 11 minutes into the game? Well, 217 now, and I do get my hit hard achievement. However, we are still down on points, and we are down on ships. Ideally, if my FDG turns in though, he should be getting a really good broadside on this Pommern, and he can just sit there and create a crossfire from that flank. I mean, looking how safe he's been playing so far, I'm hoping he's going to continue playing safe and just basically sit there and take crossfire pot shots at these two guys. We can easily take them down with the crossfire without really losing anything in the process. The Pommern back turrets managed to go over the island, something I didn't expect. I thought he would be turning his guns to fight the FTG, but he did in fact lob his back turrets over the island, and that was the first major mistake. I gave broadside to a battleship in the Iowa at medium to close range. And the Iowa, of course, eats citadels so extremely easily if you do that. I think he even got a double citadel with those unreliable Pommern guns. Really puts into perspective just how weak these guns are. However, I'm still gonna play aggressive. I'm still gonna start pushing in a bit because I need to help my FDG with this Pommern. Ideally, if the Pommern just sits there, he can just kill the Pommern easily. But in a classic teammate fashion, it looks like he has other plans. I'm hoping I can help my Jean Bart with the Pommern, but looking north, it looks like my FDG is actually going to need some help, because the FDG, instead of just sitting there and shooting him, he has decided that he's going to rush the Pommern. And I don't need to tell you guys, if you're playing a ship that doesn't have torpedoes, or battleship that doesn't have torpedoes, and you're up against a battleship that does have torpedoes, you should be staying out of torpedo range. You should not be doing what he's doing right now, which is basically charging face first into Pommern torpedoes. So now we're down to 2 versus 4, and we still have a gigantic mountain to climb. At this point, I need to focus down this Pommern. I know that I might be getting crossfire from the other Pommern as well, so I'm afraid to go full nose in because of the potential crossfire. The Donskoi is also farming me over the island, but I have to finish this kill. I need to pick up this kill to get the points that we need. I'm not sure what happened there with my Jean Bart and my Siegfried, but they are struggling, and they are struggling hard. I'm hoping my back turret will kill him, but the dispersion looks so poor that, yeah, we're gonna need our front guns as well. With Halsey proccing though, my reload is 19 seconds, and I take a bit of a risk. I turn in, giving broadside to the other Pommern. At this range, I suspect that he will struggle to citadel me with that poor Pommern penetration, or just that poor Pommern dispersion more than anything. And picking up him, I take a volley at Vlad, the Pommern that rushed through the center and somehow got away with it, because, well, no one really wanted to kill him by the looks of it. And we do get to pop that Iowa heal. That's something I haven't really mentioned here. I pick up the Pommern and get the Kraken, but for some reason the Minnesota doesn't have that great, fantastic Iowa heal either. In fact, you'll note that I won't even be able to utilize the full healing capacity because I ate citadels, and citadel damage, well, you heal significantly less than normal damage. This is something that the Minnesota is lacking as well, which I don't understand. Why? Minnesota gets citadel as well as you give broadside. It gets farmed, it's slow. The only thing it has is that 38mm armor, but you're so slow and you eat so much damage that it doesn't really help. At this point, well, my Siegfried is horrendously out of position. It's far too late to go and get any caps. Trying to sit in A and trying to secure a cap is never going to work, especially with the Donskoi securing C. My only hope to turn this game around is kills. I need to pick up kills to turn this game into a win. In the Minnesota, this game would of course already be far over for me, because there's no way you could rejoin the battle in the Minnesota. Once you're out of position in the Minnesota, you're out of position for the rest of the match. That's just the way the ship works. That's the downside of having no speed. On the other hand, in the Iowa, we're doing 31.8, 31.9, closing in on 30, well, we're going over 32 knots now. So the difference in speed is huge when it comes to playmaking capacity, when it comes to positional ability. Being able to basically sail around at cruiser speeds across the map is very effective. I'm not exactly impressed by my team. I'm being a bit salty in chat saying it's 1 versus 23 because honestly that's kind of what it feels like. I don't really know what happened to my team. Because usually when you have 150,000 damage in like 6-7 minutes, that game should be done and dusted. But in this game, regardless of my input, this game is looking like a very definitive loss. Because all the enemy team needs to do at this point is just sail away for 2 minutes and they win. My hopes are that they are foolish enough to try to pick some sort of fight. And that's exactly what happens. The Musashi is pushing in. I use Expert Loader on Halsey, and I switch to HE very quickly. One of the great benefits of having improved Expert Loader on battleships is that you basically always have the right ammunition type. The Donskoi is here as well, but I need to kill the Musashi first. I can survive the Donskoi HE spam for some time, well, not for long because of my low HP pool, but Musashi can just one-shot me through the nose. So I'm making sure that my Siegfried understands to focus the Musashi. He damage cons the fire. I go for that vulnerable nose. The nose is 32 millimeters, and the nose is completely unsaturated, so it's an easy target to shoot. So that's the target that I'm going to be aiming for here. His AP comes in, I try to wiggle my ship a bit. Dispersion isn't too bad, I survive without taking much damage. I pop my heal while the fire is burning, basically to mitigate the effects of the fire. It effectively neutralizes the damage the fire is doing and keeps me at the same health. The Siegfried picks up the Musashi. I had a fire on him, he couldn't damage con, so that would technically have been kill number 6, but Siegfried picks him up, that's okay. Now the problem is killing this Donskoi. This Donskoi is full HP, untouched, all he needs to do is run away. I switch to AP, I damage con, the game is about to end in a minute anyway, so ultimately it doesn't matter, I just need to get as many volleys off as possible. Dispersion decides to troll me. I'm hoping he doesn't expect that I have Halsey, so maybe he'll give broadside to shoot again and doesn't expect my reload to already be up, and that's exactly what happens. So here he is potentially throwing the game by making a significant greedy mistake, but I need Dispersion to be on my side, I need RNG to be on my side. He's giving broadside to both me and the Siegfried, but we get no damage whatsoever. And with 28 seconds remaining on the score timer before the game is about to end, well, 25, I burn to death. Well, there was no point in running away anyway. I will never understand. I see that a lot these days is people running away when a game is about to be lost. What's the point? You should always try to win. You see that a lot of people sitting with full HP in the back watching as the game score ticks down. What's the point? You don't pay extra for dying, chat. Or viewers, sorry. I'm used to talking to chat. Back in the day of World of Warships, back in the very, very early days, you actually paid extra if you died in a battle. But Wargaming removed that quickly, like what, 3-4 years ago? But for some reason there are still people who think that you somehow incur a penalty if you die in a battle. You don't. The only downside is I won't get the Dreadnought achievement, which I would have normally gotten, or maybe a Fireproof achievement or something like that. You don't actually have any penalties. You don't pay extra, you don't earn less. It does not matter. You should always, always fight for the win. You should always, always try to commit and turn the game around, exactly as I did in this one. Sadly, the game ends in a defeat. 289,000 damage. Kraken, 8 Citadels, Confederate, High Caliber. Would have probably had some survivability achievements as well if I hadn't, well, tried to kill the Donskoi at the very end. Team score wise, almost 2,000 base. The guy behind me is the Kitakaze with 1.1k, who also team killed our Östergötland. So this was a rough effort, to say the least, a hard game to try to win. The Pomerant rushed through the middle and no one except me really shot at. He came first on their team. I don't really know what to say about that. You see this a lot though, and that's just both my St. Louis and my Donskoi, both of them charged into caps to die. I don't know why. I think the player base has just completely lost their patience with how the game plays. It's supposed to be somewhat strategic, somewhat tactical, but I see these squishy cruisers just rush into caps, pop all their consumables, drop their torps, and then instantly explode, and then they think like, hey, well, that was a great game, let's go to the next one. Not really sure what happened there, but I've been seeing that a lot lately, and it is pretty depressing to watch, especially considering cruisers are basically this class that you need to be most careful with, because they can't rely on torpedoes and stealth like DDs, and they don't have the survivability of a battleship, so you need to conserve health. And somehow this is the class people conserve the least health in. Detailed report wise, distance traveled 53 kilometers, something you will never see in Minnesota. And I didn't actually move around much this game, honestly. I pushed center, I tried to maintain crossfires, and then I tried to chase down any straggling enemy ships before the game ended. That was pretty much it. Damage received 151,000. These are also things you will sadly struggle to do in the Minnesota because, well, the heal is worse, And more importantly, when you're under pressure in the Minnesota, you struggle to disengage, which really, really sucks because the ship is so slow. I actually wonder if you can even reach 151,000. Maybe you can. The heal is pretty terrible. I'm actually curious. I'm genuinely curious now. Can you reach that number? Okay, chat, give me, okay, chat, I'm gonna keep calling you chat by habit. Give me a second. You have 5 heals, 457.28. They last for 28 seconds. Let's see. 457 times 28 times 5 plus the health pool of the Minnesota, which is 76,300, equals the maximum damage you can eat in a Minnesota. The maximum damage you can take in a Minnesota is 140,280. So this game already, I took 11,000 more damage than a Minnesota potentially could. And this wasn't the perfect tanking game by any means. I ate citadels. I used the heal just to stay alive, even though I knew it was going to be some wasted healing there. Like, this was not optimal tanking by any means in this Iowa game. I could have managed my healing, I could have managed my citadel better. And even then, I still vastly, by 11,000 health, I beat the potential maximum of a Minnesota. That really just puts into perspective just how tragic the Minnesota is when it comes to survivability, when it comes to lasting under enemy pressure. Yeah, I guess I don't need to tell you guys I'm not a fan of the Minnesota at all. We'll see how the Vermont is. I haven't played it. At this point, the Vermont basically has to be an absolute god of a ship to justify the Kansas and Minnesota being these horrendous downgrades from the North Carolina and from the Iowa. Overall damage though, I didn't do much fire damage at all. 102 shells landed, 271k, plus some HE, 1670k. Not that much. Overall, this was an example of the firepower of the Iowa. And the fact that the Iowa is still a very strong ship in the right hands. But not even the Iowa can carry all teams. That's just the way World of Warships goes. My build is my classic battleship build. I don't think I need to go into it. It is very, very standard, which means priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, fire prevention, concealment expert, expert marksman, expert loader, and a jack of all trades. I do, of course, run the dispersion module, the 3 million dispersion module on the Iowa, whereas I run the reload module on the Minnesota for the simple reason that I find the reload so damn sluggish otherwise. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little demonstration of the fact that the Iowa is still a good ship. The Minnesota is still not. I'll talk to you guys later.